This is TWiT.
Are we going to talk about Uncle Satya? I was surprised about Uncle Satya.
Yeah. What do you think of this?
I think when you're, I think everybody takes a cautionary page from what happens to Gates, and it's all different when you're in front of government.
Yeah. Under oath is a tough thing, because this is the marketing versus reality. Google is in, for those who don't know, is facing the DOJ in a federal court for antitrust charges related to its alleged abuse of its search engine, which is dominant, by the way, is a monopoly, absolutely.
Utterly dominant. Yeah.
Yeah. Literally. I mean, so, you can have debates about different platforms. This one, I don't know. There's not much of a debate happening here. So it's been very interesting because what you hear is the other side of the story. So, for example, Apple infamously, Steve Jobs said, because of Android, we are in a thermonuclear war with Google. Sadly or not, he passed away. But since then, what we learn is Google and Apple might have the most lucrative partnership in all of personal technology, right? Mm-hmm. And when you get Apple executives on the stand under oath, it's not like those marketing events where everything we do is great. It's actually everything Google does is great. And the reason we partner with them, it's not the money, it's the money, is because it could be both, by the way, and it is both. It's because A, it's lucrative for them financially, and B,
Google pays them a huge amount of money.
It's lucrative. And what it allows them to do is essentially partner. No, not essentially, literally partner in that the iPhone has a huge and lucrative user base. They're searching for things that are kind of high end and, they tend to buy things that are expensive. Right. And Google has the best search engine. So it allows Apple to take advantage of that. It allows Google to take advantage of that audience, and they both share the revenues. It's essentially a revenue share is what it is. It's always presented as Google paying Apple because that's where the check goes, but literally Apple pays in the form of opening this thing up to their audience. They talked about some of the compromises they have to make under the covers because they promote privacy pretty big over in Apple land. I don't know if you noticed that.
Right.
What happens on an iPhone stays on iPhone unless you're using Google.
When it goes to Google.
Yeah. Eddie Q gave a nice little tip in court. If you want to avoid that, don't sign in to Google. You can use Google search on an iPhone. And if you don't sign in, you will not. Google cannot track you. If you do, it does. So it's just like every other phone. Sorry. And I bet most people do. So that was very interesting, right?
Well,
so we got the other side.
Have you tried using Google not signed in? Like, it's pretty fussy.
Oh, is it? Okay. I'm not. Yeah. I don't know. No, I sign in. I've given my soul to Google now. It's okay.
I know. He'd already owned it. Eventually you acknowledge that he owned it. Might as well take advantage of it.
Yeah. I might as well use the services. I mean, paying with my soul. Mm-hmm. And then Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella showed up on Monday and yikes. As a bit of background, back in August, or I guess it was August, the Wall Street Journal published an amazing kind of teardown of Bing and all the AI stuff they were doing, where they basically looked at every possible web stat there is and said, when this thing came out, Satya Nadella was a little over the top. He was talking about how proud he was. He could make Google dance, and that every percentage of search market share that we take back from them is worth billions of dollars. Yeah. And can anyone tell me how many percentages of search they took from Google in the past 6 or 7 months?
Zip.
Zero. In fact, they lost a tiny bit of market share. Yeah. And he described this as a $100 billion bet.
Wow. Well, and I think that's true, but it's not on Bing.
Yeah. Well, it's across everything. I think, look, they've been keeping Bing afloat for many, many years. But here's the ugly truth, because this is a great debate. This is the type of thing in my world where people get a little upset. So I'm a Microsoft guy. And if I criticize like a Surface product, right? You get the Surface guys who are like, whoa, what are you talking about, Paul? Surface is great. I hear from those people with Bing, if you can believe that. So I'm like, Bing is terrible. It's a waste of time. I don't know why anyone uses it. And they'll say, well, Paul, in my experience, Bing delivers much better search results than Google does. Okay. When was the last time you used Google? 1999. So, it's like, okay, that's cute. But most people understand Bing to be a running joke. It's the butt of jokes to normal people. And other people might try it from time to time, like I do, and then they're like, "Oh God, right? This is why I use Google search."
The usual way you try Bing is because defaults have been reset again,
You forgot,
and you're like, "Well, these search results terrible."
That's right.
Oh wait, it's Binging.
It's Bing. Okay. Yep, that's the experience. And you're like, I'm going right back. I go back to the warm embrace of the thing that
you
works.
don't detect it because of the page or anything. You detect it because of the results.
Yeah. So here's the horrible truth in all this. To the people who love Bing and maybe just want it to survive or even beat Google because they love Microsoft, whatever the reason is, doesn't matter. And to the people who argue, well, maybe they're abusing their monopoly, but Google search is the best. The horrible truth is this. Both of those things can be true. Bing is worse. He said it. This is Satya Nadella saying this, not me. Satya Nadella admitted that Bing is worse and will always be worse because they don't have the users to get the data, to improve the engine, to make a difference
there lies
in a way.
The question is the majority of the customer base using Google because it's better, or is Google better because they force the majority of the customer base to use it? I
believe it to be the former, but I'm going to throw everyone a bone here. Both can be true because now both are true. Because more people use Google, Google is better. Because fewer people use Bing, Bing is worse. This is the Microsoft CEO saying this, not me. The problem for Microsoft is there's no amount of money they can spend that will fix this problem. They can't pour more billions of dollars into Bing to improve the service because even if they do, no one's going to use it. That's not how it works. No one is looking to Consumer Reports to find out what the best search engine is in the world. They can't do anything to fix it. And there's two huge problems with this. One is that this means even if Bing was better, no one would notice and it wouldn't matter, tree falling in the woods, et cetera, et cetera. It's not, but even if it was. So why even bother trying? And also, they just spent tens of billions of dollars integrating AI into Bing, and it didn't move the needle at all. That's the biggest push they've ever made.
They'd spent a lot building the large language model. The integration part was not that costly. The bigger issue here was the large language model a better way to present search results that could have?
Yeah, so it's a different thing. So I think we're going to evolve our understanding of the stuff just as they're evolve the products. I think the knee-jerk reaction back in February is this is the next search, like this replaces search.
That was the hope, and there's a reason to make the Bing play. Can we move the needle?
I think this is really about trying to say this, sort of making pervasive intelligence available kind of everywhere, including search, right? So this past week, I must have a story about this in here. Do I? Yeah. So I'm going to get to this, but Bing Image Creator was updated with DALL-E 3 capabilities. This is one of the things they showed off at the Microsoft event. This is amazing. Concurrently with this, Microsoft has been updating Bing Chat all year long. I mean, it's like the new Teams, right? Every day almost, it feels like there's a new update. Bing does this, blah, blah, blah. And I use it, right? Because I'm trying to figure out what it's good for, where it works.
Do you play with it or do you actually use it for something?
I play with it and use it, right?
Yeah, I play with it, but I haven't found a real use for it.
So here's something I did. So this is a good example of like, maybe you could search for this exactly in Google search and come up with this exact answer. But I was thinking about a topic that is that thing that's my tip of the week. And I was trying to come up with a title for it. And the phrase that came into my brain was love and anger. And Love and Anger is the name of a Kate Bush song from the late 1980s. And which I love. It's a great song. But, like so many songs, like I could probably sing the whole thing for you right now. I have no idea what the lyrics mean. Like I know the words, but I don't actually know what they mean. So I wanted to find out if the song meant something that would be relevant to the article I was going to write. Like maybe if it's similar, that would make more sense. So I asked Bing Chat, what is the meaning behind the song Love and Anger by Kate Bush?
Oh God.
And it does what Bing Chat does.
Yeah.
It does what Bing Chat does. It reaches out to places on the internet that already have this answer and put it into a little narrative. So here's the thing. I believe it's correct. It makes sense what it wrote. In other words, I don't think it made anything up. I didn't actually research that, but the thing that struck me about it wasn't so much that it is what some people might call a glorified search result. You got to remember, it's doing two things here that I think are important. It's combining information from multiple sources into a coherent narrative. And that 3-paragraph thing that it responded with, which I could read if you want,
it's a synthesis.
But it's also presented in a way that is articulate and intelligent.
Deceptively
and
so.
Concise. Well, it doesn't matter, right?
Even if it is incorrect.
In this case, I think it's correct. I mean, I'm just, all I'm trying to say is, look, this thing will get better. It might have already gotten better. And the problem for Microsoft is it might not matter, because not only do these, I could, like, I or you or anyone else could talk about how much better it is. Oh my God, it's getting so good. It's like Apple Maps people saying, oh, you don't understand. It's caught up with Google Maps. And it's like, I don't think you understand, but whatever. I'm sure it's gotten better, but it's not going to move the needle. And that's the potential problem for Microsoft that he voiced. He said, we could pour hundreds of billions into this. And what if on the end of it, we're at 4% instead of 3%?
Right.
That's.
I would also point out, not necessarily that he's telling the truth, but that he definitely has a spin in that scenario.
Yes.
He's not going to advocate for Google while Google's under an antitrust trial. He's going to show how Google is suppressing
That's right.
the market.
So actually, that's the important point. Apple, interestingly, was a witness for the defense. They're there for Google. That's why they're there.
Right.
They agreed with Google to explain the benefits of the service that they get and why it's good for everybody. Microsoft is there for the DOJ, which is ironic, maybe, if you believe that history exists in a continuum or something. But Microsoft, which was
I'm sure
right,
Brad Smith said it's the right place to be.
There you go. Yes, I love Brad Smith. So, from his position, Satya Nadella, there you get this sense of futility. It's a little bit like what we got out of Xbox in the FTC hearings, where you're like, oh my God, like this. He makes it sound so dire. And what he came out with was, and trust me, don't trust me. I believe that he did. No, don't trust me. But I think this makes sense. I don't think he meant this literally, like you should, as the courts order this to happen. But his answer was, the only way this gets fixed is if Apple either buys Bing or pays us to use it, and we get access to that user base that Google now controls. And now we have this virtuous cycle of an audience that is of an appreciable size and good information, and we can improve our service. And you could make a case, Bing probably at Microsoft would go to Apple and say, look, I mean, it's us. We're going to be more private. We're going to do things better, on those lines. We align in that way. But here's the problem. For Apple to do that, either one, they would have to insurtify their own customers by offering them a worse off product. And
right.
that is a catch-22. Yep, for some period of time. Can you imagine that little bit of marketing from Tim Cook yelling across the rainbow there on the grass in front of the Apple thing?
Say, and I think it would be right, it's more private. We've chosen a more private solution. We've gotten fed up with
You told us you care about your security, so here we go.
Now, here's the question. Could they get $12 billion from Microsoft?
That's the thing. You know what? I think they could.
Because they make a lot of money off of Google.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. So, there are other issues that relate to this that I think are part of a problem. Google, part of the Google antitrust thing is that they own a monopoly in this space on online ads. And so that, Microsoft wants to have these companies advertise on Bing as well. And they're like, we can't, according to our little agreement with Google, we can't even do that. So even if they got that audience, like a lot of things have to change, right, for this to make sense, which, was the point of having an antitrust trial, I guess. But,
there's an interesting thought here to say, what if there were two search engine products out there that each owned like 45% of the market?
Yeah, exactly. Like we have in mobile.
Would we be in a better place?
Yes.
Would it?
I think so.
Yes, because Google has free reign to garbage.
Overall search result quality would be lower.
We need a Chromium
Why would you say
Google
that?
search. We need Searchium. Right.
Yeah. But the argument is that by having a gestalt of everything in one place, you have the optimal search result. When you split the search result.
The counter argument is that because Google is 80 or 90% of the market, and they know they've got a captive audience, honestly, you wouldn't.
They spend no money on search,
and their front page is not better because the search is being moved farther and farther down below the fold. The actual results, so they can show Google results up there.
This is kind of getting a little farther field, but one of the things we have learned about Google, by the way, is that Microsoft came up with their AI stuff in February, kind of shocking the world a little bit, and Google stumbled a little bit in the beginning, messaging wise, but the thing we all understand about Google is like they have this stuff. They've been doing this too. They have been as aggressive internally as Microsoft has. The only difference is they've been kind of doing it themselves. They didn't have to invest in a company like OpenAI to do this. They actually have it. So what's the narrative, right? The narrative from Google is the public narrative is, we had this stuff, but it's not safe. It hallucinates.
We decided not to use it. Yeah.
We decided not to do it. But what's the reality? The reality is those people inside of Google who were doing this AI stuff said, this is going to replace search. Let's get going on this. And the money guys at Google were like, "Are you out of your mind?
We're
This thing
making
is
so
a
much
cash cow.
We're making
This
so
is
much money.
80% of our revenues.
Yeah.
We are not screwing with this
Messing
thing.
with it. I think you're
That's
exactly
stupid."
right.
So Microsoft,
They have innovator's dilemma in a big way.
Yeah.
right. So this is what happens with monopolies. You move into maintenance, you stop innovating. So Microsoft, ironically or not, triggered is starting to be a Google avalanche of AI products and services, because this stuff was all just sitting there waiting, and now they're burping it out, and we saw some of it today at the at the Pixel event, right? This Bard stuff coming, Google Assistant, and of course they're doing this. So anyway, it's a messy, awesome, big topic. It's very interesting. I love anything that gives me insight into what's going on behind the scenes, because marketing is always so different from reality. And we got to see it big time with Satya Nadella and Eddie Q so far in the Google trial. I can't wait to see the Google guys.
Love these trials, by the way.
Love this.
Same thing with Microsoft Activision and Apple Epic.
Yes.
It's
the best.
We're finally seeing behind the curtain.
Yes. Yep. It's the best.
I'd say it's still a spin. At least it's a different spin.
Yeah, but when you get Discovery and you see these emails, there's not much spin in the emails.
It's closer to the truth.
There was one of the, because of big tech's experience with antitrust, thanks to Microsoft, Google at one saw Bill, and also Jim Alton on the stand, who was shown to be lying essentially, which is too bad. But there was certain documents that were part of Discovery that Google did not want let out into the world. Now, in the Activision Blizzard trial, there was a lot, hearing, there was a lot of that stuff as well. You redact things because it's private information, either to one of the two companies involved or a third party, and that's completely understandable. But this particular one, the rationale for it was just embarrassing, and they didn't want it out in the world. And the judge finally said, "Screw you! There's nothing proprietary here. We're putting it out." And all it was some Google idiot bragging about how awesome search was internally and using a phrase very much like cutting off the air supply, which is the famous Microsoft thing from the 1990s. And it was just embarrassing. And they had to say, "This person's opinions do not reflect the views of the company," blah, blah, blah. They didn't want it out. And,
but the guy's literally using the Microsoft term that got Microsoft declared.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm paraphrasing. It was not exactly the same term, but it was very, very close. It was something very similar. So I love this stuff. Like, I love it. I love it. So this is, aside from like a leak, like the Xbox thing, which is also amazing.
Juicy.
Oh, the best, right? Because most of the time what we're talking about is like the SwiftKey keyboard got a new character code, and it's like, who cares?
And we only can guess.
Decoding corporate speak about product.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're just reading the tea leaves instead of actually seeing under the kimono, which is not a good image, but you get the idea.
It's not.
Every time we read those emails and realize these are just people who have their own foibles and are trying to make things.
That's right.
It's relieving, isn't it?
But it's when you see a good marketing event like Apple, maybe a little over the top with the Hollywood special effects, but God, do they own messaging, right? Even Google in their own kind of down market way, or Amazon does a good job of this to the devices event. You get this kind of what seems like a cohesive set of things, and then when you look under the covers, you realize like these guys have no idea what they're doing. Like they're just throwing it together. Someone. I think it's kind of, I always think this thing is fascinating. Yeah. So anyway, with regards to Microsoft and Bing and Google and Apple and yada, 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 whatever anyone's opinions, the reality is that Bing is in a hole. They're never getting out of it. And it's going to take some kind of a Hail Mary miracle on the part of Apple, or, frankly, I don't know who else could do this, or a regulatory divestiture of Google's ad DoubleClick business, getting the ads away from search. Right,
boy, that would be interesting because that's their revenue. That's
it. And this is
these are pretty specific remedies. Like you're pushing.
They're also very far-fetched, right?
Well, they're draconian, but I think they are correct, and I don't.
But they should be considered. These are the biggest companies on earth. If you're serious about severing their control over our society, this is what you have to look at: taking Instagram and WhatsApp away from Facebook, taking ads away from Google. Google without ads, I think, could still be a great business. They would still be able to, get ads and make money from it from various third parties. But it would be like this open, healthy market of different companies that could provide that service.
Tech Break is brought to you by our friends at IT Pro TV, now called ACI Learning. ACI Learning is here to support your team's advancement in IT and cybersecurity. Get fully customizable training tailored to your team's needs. Visit go.acilearning.com/twit. TWiT listeners can receive up to 65% off an IT Pro Enterprise Solution Plan. The discount is based on the size of your team when you fill out their form.